Okay, Dr. Kat, let me take us back though, because I'm interested in these online classes. It's such a new age that we can connect literally with people around the world, and I love what you're offering. How do we know that someone is a legit expert or offering us exactly what we need? Should they be a victim or a survivor of sexual abuse, or maybe they're soul searching for some sort of intimacy? Maybe they're just a victim to. We all have a past, and maybe they're just looking for some encouragement. What do they need to look for?
Well, if someone has suffered sexual abuse, trauma, something that has altered their psychological processes, then I would say go to someone who has a PhD, who's a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a licensed counselor, someone who has a doctorate. You know, I have a doctorate, and I'm also certified. But you know, you have to check the credentials, because there's a lot of people online that are offering advice, and you just got to make sure that you're getting what you're paying for.
So when adults come to you and they say things to you like, and I'm talking, let's say a victim or a survivor of sexual abuse, and they say things like to you in a session, Doctor, what about my mom and dad? How do I forgive them? Is it about them taking ownership now for that little girl that's a part of them? Or is it about them going back as an adult and rebuilding those relationships that they thought should have protected them?
That's a good question. Okay, this is my take on that. Society puts out all of this stuff about, oh, family is important. Okay, especially around the holidays, which most people get depressed around the holidays, because this whole image of, oh, the family all around the dinner table, and it's Thanksgiving and everybody's happy and they're sharing gifts and all this wonderfulness. Okay, but when there's brokenness in the family, and there's betrayal, and there's, you know, dishonesty and distrust, and yeah, all of that stuff, why do you want to go back to that? Why would you want to surround yourself with that? I chose not to. Okay, family is who loves, nurtures, and cares for you. Okay, that's my definition of family. It doesn't have to be blood. When I went back and I confronted my molester, you know what he said to me? Well, if I would have known it did that to you, I would have never done it. Not an I'm sorry, and nothing, and she's still with him.
Almost an excuse, like,
yeah, like it's your fault. It's, you know, yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. But I did what I needed to do for me, because forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you, so that you can get over that next step, that next hurdle. All of these things that have been put in your life path, you can step over them. Okay, I'm gonna hurdle over this one. I'm gonna confront him. I'm gonna see what he says. Okay, he cannot accept it if he doesn't want to. But I've said my piece.
And you're done. And you can let go of it.
And I get a little bit more of that courage back, and that self-confidence and that self-worth. Okay, and then I take the next step and I say, you know, yes, this has happened to me, and that little girl is me. So we're not detached anymore. And okay, I get a little bit more. You know, and you just keep building on that until you get whole. You become your whole self, because people have nibbled away at you. How many times have you heard that women have, you know, told you, oh, just suck it up, you know, oh, that happened so many years ago, get over it. No, it's not a get over it.
Well, the truth be told, to tell you the truth, I did that for years. For years, the little girl that I was, she always wanted to be acknowledged, because the same different situation, same scenario. At one point in time, me trying to share with someone, you know, I don't like him, he's mean to me, I don't want to go there. And they're like, oh, he would never do nothing to hurt you. So as you grow up with these little phrases, little catchphrases, I call them, that do you no good whatsoever and only internally self-harm you. Yeah, it was the whole, you know, pick yourself up, dust it off, let's keep going scenario. And it was very important for me to go back and connect my complete self and love her. She needed a voice and a vessel to be heard, because nobody, including myself, at some point in time, ever acknowledged who she was.
Yeah. So in my TED Talk, I talk about, I felt like I had a neon sign over my head, just blinking, said, victim, get her, and it would attract all of the these things. And that's why I said, I have rules, no coming to my house or my apartment. And, I tried to protect myself. And, it just...
But is that our thoughts? Or
I think it is, because your belief system is, you're not even worthy. The people closest to you that loved you, or these horrible things that happened to you, nobody said this was wrong. Mm-hmm. And so am I not worth the protection and the love and care and the nurturing? What's wrong with me? What did I do to cause this? So then you walk around with this, and you're just almost, you're radiating this, this essence of confusion and lack of love and abandonment and just hurt. This
like
betrayal. Yeah.
It's just coming at you.
Yeah. And so until you acknowledge it and address it and grieve, I tell people there is a grieving process, because that little girl, she missed out on a lot of life.
Were you always drawn to helping people learn about intimacy, connect to their inner self, find their spiritual being? What took you from the runway to an intimacy expert?
Well, I think I've always been just a very compassionate person. I think I'm an empath. And even as a little girl, if one of my siblings was about to get spanked, I would get in the way. It's like, oh no, don't spank him. And I'm crying, and I'm like, oh, get in the way of the belt, everything, And so I was always that kid. I would run home every day and run and jump, give my mom a big kiss, and and I was always just worried about, other people and animals.
Is that intimacy? Because I know you designed an intimacy wheel. So let's run through that for the viewer, because lots of people don't understand that there is a difference between intimacy and just a sexual relationship.
Yes, intimacy and sex are two different things. My definition of sex is the physical expression of the passion, the desire, the attraction that we have for another. Because love has nothing to do with it sometimes. Mm-hmm. Okay? Intimacy is the respect, the care, the nurturing, the bonding, the communication. It's all of the things that help you to relate your true self.
So it has nothing to do with someone else.
It's your expression to someone else, because you can have an intimate relationship with yourself. And I encourage people to have an intimate relationship with themselves, because it's like Dr. Wayne Dyer says, if you've never tasted a mango before and someone asks you how it tastes, you can't do that. So the same thing with love and intimacy. If you don't know it for yourself, how can you share that with someone?
Mm-hmm. But I think what I want to understand is sometimes people don't even know self-love. So they look to fill a void and emptiness and invisibleness in their life by filling it with someone that they love. I'm wondering if intimacy is the same level. If I don't know true intimacy and self-care and value and my self-worth, do I look for that in other people, their acceptance, their acknowledgement of me?
That depends on whether you are codependent or not. And I say that because you can seek approval from someone and want their encouragement and their conversation and you want to share the whole you with someone. But when it becomes codependent, when you need that to identify yourself as, that person is you. If you lose yourself in what that person is giving you or makes you feel, that's when it becomes a problem.
There's no box to sexual abuse. We all lived in different houses. We looked differently. We were raised differently. Perhaps we worshiped differently. We had different customs, values, relationships within our homes.
And I call that the love perspective, because our views on love, sex, relationships, romance is influenced by all of that. Religion, society, life experience, cultural, ethnicity, gender. So all of that determines how we view love, sex, and how we relate to each other.
So how come, because I've spent some time interviewing people who have the same backstory as we both do. Some people have the best situation, were born with a silver spoon in their mouth and they're victims. And some people have like horrific conditions and they're survivors. So what I'm trying to get at is, how does that relate to is it a choice to be a victim or a survivor, or is it an upbringing? Is it something that's instilled in you to shake it off, move forward, get up, keep going?
Okay, so people feel that if your dad was not in your life, when you have kids and you're a guy, you're not going to be in your kid's life. Okay, but there are those people who say, no, I'm going to flip the script and it's not going to be that way for me. Same thing with abuse. Like me, I stepped away from it. I'm like, no, that's not going to be my experience moving forward. I decided no. If you are still saying you're a victim, you're still going through the healing process. If you're a survivor, you have championed it. You have faced it, you have healed, you're moving on. I'm not saying you don't ever have those moments where you might revisit that and you cry and, I'm still dealing with the situation with my mother. So, it does rear its ugly head.
Sure.
Okay? But that person has to be ready. It's just like a drug addict has to decide when they are done.
So what's the time from the point of the second rape, the court case, being fired from the job, and you sitting here today as this intimacy expert, TEDx speaker? I mean, come on. Not everybody can make it to TED Talks, you know what I mean? That's powerful. Yeah. How did you decide that I'm going to empower people and teach them true intimacy, forgiveness? You had to. We know you've accepted yourself. We know you're now rebuilt from the inside out. How did you decide you were going to build this business to help other people?
Well, I just always felt that I am a voice for those who can't communicate and articulate how it feels to be violated, to be betrayed, to be raped, to be sexually abused. So I said, I have to do something with this. I just have to. I felt that, this is my calling. And after I wrote my book, Seeds from Mama's Garden is it's a fiction version of my life story, because I felt that maybe my family would sue me, but
well, you never know. You got to do what you got to do.
Exactly. So after I wrote my book, I just knew that was going to be a platform for me to go out and speak about it. Now,
in Seeds from Mama's Garden, it does talk about you being a little girl reaching out to your mother about your molestation, her choosing to stay married to him. That whole story, we touched base on it, but that book is really what that's about.
Yeah. And there's a twist in it that even though the book is fictionalized, I changed the names to protect the guilty. I always say that, to protect the guilty. But the storyline is true. It's based on our family. I have a niece that is my mother's husband's child. Okay, so not only did he molest me,
Your
he
mother's-
had a child with one of my sisters.
Your mother's husband's child. So your stepfather,
No, I don't claim him as a stepfather. He's my mother's husband.
okay, your mother's husband impregnated.
One of my sisters.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's all in the book.
Yes. It's all in the book.
You've also written other books, though.
Yeah, I've written 9 total. I have Seeds from Mama's Garden. I have, I have a funny one about being tall. I'm tall, you're not, so that makes us even. Because everybody has something.
I love that. What a great title.
Yeah. ABCs of Intimacy, 69 Tips to Enrich Intimacy. And then I have programs too. I have the
CD,
school,
or
yeah,
these CD programs.
and I just launched my School of Intimate Knowledge. It's an online school to help people create that deep, intimate connection that they desire.
And so how do they connect through you for this School of Knowledge? Are you going to do like a live broadcast, or are you going to webcam?
I do webinars, but all of these classes are already online. So all they have to do is go and register, and they can do it at their own pace.
And so what can they expect when they sign up for this? They're accepted, they take a seat in the class. What can they expect from, I assume, some popcorn and comfy clothes, because, you know, they don't have to get all dolled up, right?
Yeah,
Sitting in
and
their
do
own
it in the
home.
comfort of your home. And that way, as you're processing whatever you're processing, you can give yourself time to go through that process. You know, everybody doesn't heal the same way. You know, sometimes it'll bring up certain things, and you can kind of stop, and you kind of say, oh, you know, I'm going to stop the course right here, and I'm going to see how I feel.
So is everyone that's searching a true intimacy, have they all been sexually abused?
No, I think, you know, intimacy begins at infancy, okay? So babies can die if they're not held. So developing an intimate relationship, and I want to say this because with boys as young as 4 years old, they are pushed out of an emotional development process and pushed more into physical, you know, expression.
Tough, provider.
Yeah. And even though boys navigate, you know, in more physical ways, they take the men and they fight with the men, and, you know, toys, and they crash the cars together and all that. Where girls are more loving, and, you know, and they,
Baby doll.
yeah, they play house and all that kind of stuff, and it's a natural tendency. But when boys are pushed away from develop their emotional, they say, oh, get out from under your mom, you're a big boy now, and boys don't cry. And then when they're old enough, go out and sow your wild oats, and, you know, some dads buy them a prostitute. I mean, that's just how crazy it is. So when guys do not develop their emotions, they have a tendency to not have the way to communicate how they feel, what they need from a relationship. So then they use power, they use the more physical expression to get their point across. Domestic violence,
Sexual assault.
financial abuse. Okay, if I can't control you, I'm going to keep the money so you can't do anything. And, you know, so there's always these things. If a man was allowed to develop his emotion, he would have a voice to explain, you know what, this makes me feel this way. I wish you wouldn't do that. I love you, but these things, you know, are not acceptable. And then understand that, you know, when she resents your affection when you want sex, because that's the only time you give affection. Mm-hmm. You know, he comes in, he wants to rub the shoulders, or he gives you that look, you know, and you're going, oh, that's all you think about. Because you have not given her any affection all the other time. Mm-hmm. If you give women affection on a daily basis, and I always say affection is a daily thing. It's like the apple a day. Okay? If you give a woman affection on a daily basis, then she won't immediately think, you know, oh, he wants sex.
Yeah. Or she might just want to have sex with you because y'all communicate and you do things together.
Mm-hmm. And you're making her feel like she's not just a hole for you to, you know, plug into, or a toilet. You know?
To get off, yeah.
Really, treat her like you appreciate her, you value her, you want to be close and affectionate with her, and her whole persona will change.
So I'm hearing like equal.
Yeah, and she will initiate sex then, because then she will feel that, oh, he loves me so much, and I want to share this beautiful experience with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really give a
Going back to the intimacy wheel, sex and passion are components of intimacy. But I always say intercourse lasts about 7 minutes on average. What are you doing with the rest of your time to create a connection with that person, to build that intimate, connection with them? So that aside, when you are trying to build something with someone and you're opening up on an intimate level, you don't have to have sex. There are asexual people who have no desire for sex whatsoever, and they build healthy, loving relationships.
Yeah.
So sex doesn't always have to be in the equation, because there are people who are handicapped, who are enjoying beautiful relationships, and they have, they don't have sex.
So why do we as society always come back to intimacy being sex?
Well, this is my belief, okay? Because men believe that intimacy and sex are the same thing, because you got to understand, again, their first interaction with intimacy was mom. She nurtured, she loved, she took care of, she embraced, and she was always affectionate, kissing and all that stuff. She gave them all of that intimacy without the sex. So I said men want mom with benefits. They really do. They want all of that love and attention and caring, and give them everything they need, and they want the sex too. Okay? So when you look at what a man was getting, and the next time he started getting this from a woman, sex happens. And it's almost like anchoring that. Okay, when you get all this intimacy, you gotta have sex. Okay, boom, it happens. So now intimacy and sex are the same thing.
It's almost like it's reinforced.
Yeah. So now women today are starting to think the only way I'm going to get the intimacy that I so crave is to give up the sex. But then he rolls over and goes to sleep, and you're laying there going, no, because that didn't work.
Oh, I wanted to talk about my day and this book I'm reading and the conversation I had with my girlfriend.
Yeah, and if men understand that, if they talk to and gave women the conversation that they so love, what she's doing is she's trying to get from them all the details of the information of how to care for them better. That's all we want. We want to know, how can I care for you better? I'm asking you these questions. How was your day? What happened? And she's looking for all of that stuff during the conversation. How can I love this person more? How can I make sure all of their needs are met? How can I care for you more?
But doesn't that essentially build trust?
Yes, it does. But men don't want to talk. They want to come home, grab the remote control, turn on the TV, and kick back and
Crack open their beer.
yeah. So it's a two-way street. And if men understand that if they give their woman what she needs, then she will give him everything he needs.
It reminds me of reinforcing good behavior.
Exactly.
If you recognize good behavior, you get rewarded for it.
Exactly.
If it's negative, then something's taken from you. It's almost the same principle that we're talking about with now relationships of husband and wife, man and woman, just intimate relationships.
Yeah.
They need a little behavior modification going on.
Sure does. I mean, don't reward his behavior that you don't want him to repeat. Okay, so, and hey, sex is sometimes the tool that they respond to the most. So if he's acting a fool, okay, no sex for you for a while. So now the only thing, it could backfire and he can go get it somewhere else, but then that's another a whole other thing you have to,
All right, so in other words, when he comes in, he cracks open a beer, grabs the remote control, instead of bringing him his dinner plate, Maybe he needs to get up and get it himself. And instead, when he mows the yard, go running out there and throw your arms and legs around him and start kissing him and have some wild, crazy sex in the backyard. I don't know.
Or make him his favorite dinner. You know, buy him tickets to the game. You know, something that, you know, he can go, wow, that's really, and so he's going to do that more, because now not only is he out with his buddies and having a good time, he's like, gosh, she did that for me. Because, you know, think about the dad. He always gets the tie for Christmas. Everybody breaks out lists and, you know, I want the Nintendo and I want this and that. You know, you have the whole list of stuff, and the tree is just packed with gifts. And then everybody chips in and buys him the tie.
Yes.
Know? So men want to feel appreciated and desired and, you know, all of that too.
Well, Dr. Cat, I thank you so much for sitting down and sharing with all of us what a true survivor of sexual abuse really looks like. I'm so proud to share who you are, your website again, drcatsmith.com. There's all kinds of books and daily exercises, and they can connect to you all over social media, I know. But I just want to say thank you, and I want to ask you one last question.
Sure.
Or finish this statement for me. I am
whole and spectacularly blessed.
I love that.